I'm John Angus MacDonald. I play lead guitar in the Trews.
I'm Colin MacDonald. I sing and play guitar in the Trews. In this business, you're always in a different environment, different beds. Just the transient nature of this job in every regard is not necessarily very conducive to people that are suffering from a mental illness. And so a lot of just the regular stuff that goes on in the day-to-day, which is the constant travel, the lack of sleep, the poor diet. Because if you're traveling in the Midwest or anywhere that's not like near major cities, you're not going to get a lot of good food. And good food and sleep are so important to keeping your mental health in check. So it's actually probably the worst lifestyle for mental health. Pay them more, and so they can afford better ways of getting around. They can afford better hotels. They can afford better food. They can afford to take care of themselves, because taking care of yourself seems to be a luxury of the rich in our culture. So it's all good when the CEOs are doing yoga retreats in their offices, but a lot of these people out on the road that are playing music and writing or performing in any kind of artistic venture, they're not making anything. And everybody wants to watch it and come to the JUNOS and pat each other on the backs for how great and artistic and cultured we are. But most of these musicians aren't making near the money that any of the people that are the head of any of these boards are making. So if you want to help their mental health, immerse them.
I think it's important to talk to each other. I think that's what I want to say about being in a band with guys, because guys, they got the stiff upper lip and the tough exterior, and they don't necessarily want to talk about something that's bumming them out or eating at them. And we're not the best at it, but maybe we're getting better, every day kind of thing. So I think that's an important message for dudes in bands, because they don't necessarily want to do it. And it's an important part of getting it out, talking.
Yeah, and traditionally, just men of our generation, it's like you don't get sad, you get mad, and it's kind of been always you're angry and you got your back up, but it's really because you're sad, and it's okay to be sad, and you have to experience it and then release it, but don't hold it back, because that can turn into something else, and that can be dangerous for you. I think we are getting rid of some of the stigma. I think a lot of us are suffering from mental health problems, and it's not a big deal. It's a big deal that it needs to be treated, but it's not the end of the world, because I think most people are, and it's real, and you have to go through the proper channels to deal with it. And putting a bunch of musicians together and plying them with free drinks, alcohol is probably one of the worst things for someone that's going through a mental health crisis. So don't have a wine free drinks thing and go let's talk about mental health. It's like, well, alcohol is really one of the biggest problems when it comes to that stuff. And sobriety is really important. And a healthy diet is really important.
Bell runs a great campaign that we all know about with their Let's Talk. And I think, again, the more of that, because I think that's what helps people feel less alien about it. Don't have to suffer in silence. Like you said, it's the spectrum. We're probably all on it in some way, some much more severe and more in crisis than others, but everybody probably fits on there somewhere in some way, in some, maybe you might think of it as a neurosis or something. In some way you're on there. So it's not a big deal to talk about it.
I stopped drinking altogether, because that was no good for my mental health. I'm sober all the time. I work out all the time, and I meditate, and I see a therapist, and I am on a bit of medication, and I had to nip it in the bud, because it wasn't anything so overt that it would have been very noticeable, except for being mildly off, I guess. But I eventually had to start to confront some pretty significant things that were holding me back in life, and not just from success or anything, just from being able to navigate in the world and not feel alien and anxious all the time. And I think a lot of people feel that way. And so when I'm on the road now, I used to drink to get through all of that nervous energy that is with any performer. I work out a lot, and I try to get as much sleep as I can. And it's not very rock and roll, but I did lots of rock and roll things early on, and I'm happier now. Like I get finished a tour and I feel stronger and better, and it doesn't take me down the way it used to.